This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast, with your hosts, Brandon Spinner and Michael Burns.
And welcome into another episode of Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. I am Brandon Spinner, as always, alongside my buddy, my pal, Michael Burns. Michael, on location again tonight. Mikey, where can we find you?
I am in Boston, Massachusetts, if that's a Boston accent there.
I learned
from my last travel, though. I brought a glass.
Yes, last time you had a paper cup. And this is even more imperative. I know last one was very cool because Ben sent us a sample, but this time we're actually drinking a pick with someone who picked it, and we'll introduce our special guest here in just a minute. Before we dive into that, this is episode 16, which is going to be our second interview of Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. You can click the link right below if you're watching on YouTube that says subscribe. Also, don't forget to find us on Instagram, Barrels and Barrels Pod. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, and pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find us there. Please rate us and review us there. Hit the subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, whatever it is, to make sure you're getting our latest podcasts sent straight to you. Last thing, we now have some t-shirts available. If you want a t-shirt, reach out to us on Instagram or via email. That is barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com, and we'll get one shipped out to you. So without further ado, we want to introduce our special guest. We've been talking to him for a long time. We've been drinking his drinks for a long time. We've got Brandon Lawson from Major League Bourbon Clubhouse. My man, B-Law, how you doing, dude?
Good, how are you, sir?
Good. We are so excited to have you. Michael and I have been talking about this since we even started the podcast. We're like, one of the first people we got to interview is got to be MLB Clubhouse.
No, I'm excited to be here too. I've been watching you guys since you started, and I've said the same thing myself. I was like, man, we got to get on there and do one of these together. So finally, it's happening. Yeah,
we're stoked to have you, and it's cool that Michael's close to one of the biggest baseball havens of Fenway Park. He's in Boston, so it worked out perfectly. He's the 12th round, 2016 draft pick by the Rays. Can you tell us just that draft experience right away? What was it like to be drafted? Where were you? Do you remember the call?
It was pretty surreal. I played college at USF in Tampa, and first 2 years were a little shaky. Freshman year was pretty good, but sophomore year, man, I didn't know if I was gonna be able to play baseball again after that.
Oh wow.
Contemplated a lot of things, just struggled really, really bad that year, on the field, off the field, everything. And, I played in the Northwoods in the summer that following summer after, the collegiate season ended, and, ended up, kind of changing, my mechanics, the way I eat, everything like that, just pretty much everything about myself, and went into junior year with a different, Brandon Lawson that I've seen before, and ended up working really well. I had a really good year that year, and ended up getting selected by the Rays in the 12th round. I was at home there in just north of Tampa, where I lived at the time, or I grew up at the time, and
did you have people talk to you up ahead before?
Sooner, but
did you know it was coming, or was it a little bit?
I didn't know the Rays were coming. Kind of growing up in Tampa, I grew up in St. Louis area, so I was always a Cardinals fan growing up. And then I moved to Florida when I was 7. So ended up, just always been a big baseball fan. And I never had any contact with the Rays one bit. It was actually quite funny because we had been slotted for the 8th or 9th round with a couple teams, with Seattle Marlins, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get a call in the 11th round from the Braves, saying hey, we're going to pick you, this, and this, all set to go. And then when that slot comes up, they called real quick and they're like, hey, there's a high school kid coming before you. He's still here, so we're going to take him and let you go to the 12th. Still same everything, you good to go. I said, yeah. And then, so I'm kind of waiting, I'm just watching it there on the TV on the 3rd day. And, you're just listening to numbers be called, names be called. And all of a sudden the Rays popped up, and number ID, and then my name, and I'm just sitting on the couch, like, kind of just waiting for the Braves to be coming, and then all of a sudden, like, my name pops out, and so my agent, my dad, my best friend, and stepmom and brothers and sisters were all there, so it was a really exciting time for sure.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, and, like, the Rays didn't reach out to you at all? Like, no, hey, we picked you.
Nope. It was they didn't even reach out to my agent, anything. They just went ahead and
hey, take that Brandon Lawson guy.
Pretty much. So
wow, well, that's really cool. That I always grew up wanting to play in the majors and getting drafted. So, like, I love to hear those stories on, like, when and where, and that's really neat. Yeah. We always start with a trivia question. Usually we do it from bourbon to baseball. We're just going to jump right into it today. I want both of your inputs. You tell me your first guess right away. Who is the only player to play in a World Series game at both Wrigley Field and Comiskey Park?
A World Series game. So this had to have been 2016.
Michael's not going to get this because this was before 2000.
So you're 1940 something?
That's a good one.
I can't give you the year. It's just not the 2000s.
Well, before that, the Cubs weren't in the World Series until 1948? Like something like that?
45, I believe, is when they played the Tigers.
That's a hard one.
Let's just go Nelson Cruz. He's pretty old,
Was he on the Guardians, or I guess the Indians back then in 2016? No. It is Babe Ruth, believe it or not.
I was actually thinking that. Like, I just figured like it had to be something with the Babe, but
so it's a trick question because the White Sox were not in any of that. In 1918, when the Red Sox and the Cubs played in the World Series, that World Series, the home games were held at Comiskey Park because it was a bigger park than Wrigley Field at the time. So that was the home field for the Cubs in the World Series. Maybe that's why they lost in 1918. I don't know. But so, B-Law, you're here. You told us a little bit about your draft journey. What about college? Like, what made you choose USF? Is it because it was close to home? They were the first ones who came calling, or that's just where you felt most comfortable?
It was a little bit of all of it. Growing up in the Tampa area, there was a lot of baseball opportunities in that area. And coming from Missouri, my dream school was always University of Missouri. They had just joined in 2013, I believe. They just had joined the SEC. So that was always my mission to kind of get there. Freshman year came of high school and ended up getting some letters from some colleges, and USF came a call in and ended up verbally committing there. And more so it was the fact because it was close to home. All my friends and family were there. It was less expensive.
Yeah.
And there was a good opportunity for me to start right away. And I think that's what was most important. I ended up getting my offer from the University of Missouri, and that was kind of the hardest thing to like kind of turn down. I had some non-scholarship, like walk-on opportunities at like FSU and in Florida, but I had a decent amount of offers from all over, but it just really spoke to me that coming to me that early, telling me that I can kind of start right away as my high school years went on. But being able to start right away as soon as I go into college. Where SEC, you got to be an absolute stud of a guy to start right away as a freshman in SEC. And so I just saw that was probably my best chance to grow as a player, but also as a person. So that's why ultimately I chose that. Why I chose USF. So
awesome. Well, real quick, we want to congratulate you, brand new daddy. Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Girl dad club too, right?
Girl dad, there we go.
2.5 weeks so far, a little Gracie Hope. So yeah, we're super pumped about that. It's been a life-changing experience for sure. It's everything I've hoped for and more, honestly.
It just keeps getting better.
she's been really good for the 2 weeks so far. So we're fingers crossed that it continues to keep going. But sleep schedule's been really good. Feeding's been really good. So healthy. So that's all I can ask for.
All right.
Exactly. That's all you can ask for. Okay.
Are you ready to drink?
Oh yeah. Hey, you gotta get you one of those Agent Or travel cases.
Oh, the
That
travel
way,
case.
if you're always on the road, you can get the glass with the travel case. So that way, it makes it easy.
I've almost done that. So I have this guy. It's a 3D printed barrel, and it fits the Glencairn in
I
there.
got one of those. I got one of those too. I remember when he first started and everything. I reached out to him and he made one when I was with the Astros for me. But those are really really cool.
Not as protected probably as the padded Agent Or, but it'll do the job.
Hey, it does the job.
We're just trying to make it big and get sponsored by Asian Or, and then maybe we'll get the travel
Hey,
case.
you and us both, man.
Well, a lot of people, they can find you on Instagram. You've got two of them, at Major League Bourbon, right? And then at Major League Bourbon Clubhouse. Can you tell us how that came about?
I like brown water.
I just I as far as Major League Bourbon coming, I really wasn't a bourbon guy going into all this. I was more so just beer, and then all of a sudden, kind of, what was it, 2019? My brother-in-law, soon-to-be brother-in-law, he was big into bourbon and kind of got me into some samples and whatnot, and ended up getting me into the dark black hole that we all get in, and I've never found my way out, and I don't think I'm gonna. But so yeah, I fell in love with bourbon. I mean, COVID was right around the corner too, and ended up having a lot of free time, going to a lot of stores in the Nashville area, going down to Georgia and Florida, traveling, and making a lot of relationships with these stores, and ended up falling in love with the process. Getting to meet cool people throughout it. So I ended up making the page around baseball, and something that obviously is a part of my life, and then who knew that bourbon would be such a big part of my life too. And so started with that page, grew it fairly well through a certain amount of time, and then I think all of us join 15, 20, groups when we first start, of trying to look for that perfect pick, or something like that. Some Weller's pick, or some Buffalo Trace pick type of deal. But so many groups have rules, and they have stipulations, and you got to buy this, and this to get that, or you got to do this, that, and that, and it's just like, you got to watch what you say and things like that. And I don't know, I just ended up wanting to kind of make my own thing. I was just tired of seeing so many groups put so many stipulations on things. I just wanted it free range, and you have to kind of pick its battles with it. I've seen, but started the page on Facebook, and then also started on Instagram, and kind of playing with it. So I think we're up to like 650 members now.
Yeah, I saw that the other day. Yeah,
on the Facebook page. So I think we've done 7 picks so far, and they've all sold out relatively quick. And I think more so just being able to have fun with it, and get great picks out to all the members in the group, and share the experience. And the most important thing for me is I'm never above anyone. So I may run the group, but we're all part of the process here. It runs with all of us, and so it's just making it fun and interactive, and you guys are a part of it as well, rather than just 2 or 3 people running it, and just kind of some people are in it for the money and everything like that, of what you can make, but it's just all about the experience for me, and trying to grow the group as far as getting these top tier barrel picks and things like that, and having these members be a part of the picks and things that some of these groups kind of limit it to. So, but yeah.
So I remember always seeing different groups, and there's one in Nashville that put out a Weller foolproof, had AJ Brown on the back. I was like, oh man, that'd be cool, you know. And I remember Brandon all of a sudden being like, hey, there's a group I'm in. He's putting out his first pick and showed me like the Field of Dreams sticker. I was like, that is so freaking cool. You know, it's baseball bourbon. And so Brandon's like, all right, yeah. Brandon sent me, he sent me the link, you know, because I was going to be at work for the first pick. So I talked to him. He said he'd let you slip in too. I was like, let's go.
I was like, should I get him? Should I? Yeah. But so you said you've got 7. I've got 5 of them. This is the latest one. Your Penelope Toasted. This is really cool. We talked about this, I think, on our second or third podcast because that was at the end of the season because it's a toast to last year's season, right? Can you tell us the story about that? You told me you had like a funny story about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like funny, but it is different when you go into a barrel pick. I mean, obviously, I think we started this when we put it into the barrel opening day. We took it out on the end of the regular season for all teams, and I was hoping to have it out by the World Series or something. That's kind of what the promise was. But things happen, distributors and things like that. So it's never really a strong promise. But anyways, it's here now. It's great. But I think the funny part about it all was, a normal barrel pick, you go and you do the experience or something like that, and you get options to sample, and you know what you're kind of getting into. But this one is literally all on a whim. It was this kind of idea between like Michael and Danny and I of just like, hey, like, my group's revolved around baseball. Like, let's do something like a toasted. I really wanted to do a American light whiskey that they've been doing, and those are all sold out really quick. So it's not kind of the next best option, and they've all got all great options there. And so it's like, hey, like let's dump something on opening day and let's let it toast through all the way to the end of the season. And that's kind of when I sampled it. And I was kind of like, okay, like it can be pretty good here. And then I think it kind of sat for a little bit in the holding barrel or the holding tank, and I think something like drastically changed from that barrel to there. And I didn't know what to expect going in, like getting these bottles and stuff to myself and tasting it and seeing everyone's reaction, because normally I'm able to provide notes or know exactly like, okay, this one's really going to be good.
You know exactly what's in the bottle, right?
Kind of all, yeah. So it was all kind of on a whim, and so it's just a different barrel picking experience than a lot of people tend to get. But I thought the story around it was pretty cool. A lot of the other guys thought so too, and I'm glad to hear a lot of good feedback from it. So all in all, I think it's a win.
Yeah, so I'm going to crack mine open for the first time. It's still got the plastic on the top. So this is Penelope, 5-year, right?
4-year.
4-year.
4-year at 57.5, so 115 proof. And it was toasted for 2 days less than 6 months. So the average toast is about 3 to 4 months. So this one was, definitely more extended than the normal. But yeah, char 3, medium toast, and it was in a McGinnis barrel that was air dried for 24 months. So definitely, he said it's one of their more favorite barrels that they've been going through. But yeah, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I can't wait to crack it open. Michael brought a sample since he's on assignment.
I didn't want to risk taking the bottle through PSA and such, so I didn't want to lose it.
I also have my Major League Bourbon Clubhouse Asian Ore glass. No free ads. Yeah, so first thought right off the nose, Michael, have you been able to...
I've been nosing this thing as you guys are going to be talking. The toast, you do smell that.
You can definitely get the toast right off the bat.
Yeah, I think it's you can tell it adds that sweet element to it. I mean, if you didn't know what this was, I think if you know your palate, that this is toasted.
I also like to point out that even as a Cardinals fan, you had to sneak Wrigley Field in on your sticker, huh?
Yes.
I know. Looking at all like kind of the options and whatnot of kind of backgrounds, I thought this one played out the best of seeing what there was. And I know you two love that. So, uh,
So, what are your notes? Like, when you popped this open for the first time, what did you get on the nose?
I definitely got like that toasty, like sweet, like marshmallow
Mm-hmm.
type of vibe to it. Um, once you get into like the palate and the finish of it, it's relatively smooth for 115
Hmm.
throughout. Um, it's not very like lingering as most of I feel like my picks are. Um, but all in all, I mean, I feel like it's a pretty good pick for pretty much like a blind pick.
Right.
Yeah, that's different too. Like a blind pick rather than going to pick it at the
Hmm.
distillery itself. So you just basically did this over the phone. Like there was not
Yeah,
even a sample set.
yeah, it was
Wow.
all talk over the phone, no samples, pre, post, or during or anything, or just post, but no during or anything like that. So,
Do you know what the
um,
mash bill is? I see it's from Lawrenceburg, so
I don't know
MGP.
the mash bill offhand, but that's something I could definitely find out. But yeah, they've done all NGP, so nothing but high quality stuff always coming from them. It's always funny with like the sticker choices, like when we talk about it at first and everything gets finalized, it's like, hey man, like it's 5 years, it's 116 proof. Then when kind of comes out and it's like, hey, the age says 4 years now and it's 115 proof, and it's like the same thing happened with my Rye 3,
The
where it was
Nolan
supposed to
Ryan.
be like, yeah, it was supposed to be like 119.8 and it ended up being like 120.4 or something like that. And it was like, yeah, the Virginia Heat got to it at the end and changed it up a little bit. So, it is what it is, but it's always so hard to try to get these stickers finalized and sent out in a timely manner. So,
Understand that. Michael, did you take a sip yet?
Yeah, I've coated my mouth. Definitely
You've
get
got
that
you've got
sweetness,
your
that
coat.
toast up front. Yeah, I got my coat. Oh, come on, man. I got that sweetness, and then it comes in the oak, and after the toast, you get that oak taste, that traditional
mhm.
bourbon taste after the sweetness
Hmm.
finishes up.
I'm gonna guess that this is the high rye from MGP, just by the way it finishes and tastes. Um, if I had to guess out of their bourbon mash bills, but so
I can
that would
see
be,
that.
I think that's what 60, 36, 4. We just did one the other day. Was it Remus that had that? Um, but yeah, it's very good. I got cherry right off the bat, along with that
There is
toastiness.
a hint of cherry in there. I can see that.
Hmm.
It's always like because I'm like almost halfway through with the first bottle. I've given out some samples and things like that.
Yeah,
Have
So,
to.
um, yeah. Um, but each pick I usually keep three for myself. I always hold on to one that I never drink, and that's gonna kind of be kind of like the
your wall of fame.
wall of
That's awesome.
fame kind of idea of getting like a canvas sticker or a canvas print of like all the stickers and then putting the bottle up next to it type of
That's
deal.
awesome.
So that's the hope one day if that turns out. But I've already had to reach out to buyers of the Field of Dreams pick to try to get another one of those because I went out of those real quick. Those that that could have been the top pick for me so far was that first one, but there's plenty more in the pipeline that could change that.
Yeah, we'll get to those in a minute. You mentioned your Field of Dreams pick. I have them all right here.
Yeah, I remember that pick and it being the first one
That
being
one's very
rye,
special.
and I was just like, oh,
Mhm.
rye, but then it came in and it's phenomenal.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
it changed a lot of like non-rye believers'
Hmm.
minds, I think. I mean, because it's sweet and vanilla and very like different than what you tend to go to. But that you blew it.
Hmm.
That one's really good too.
And Michael and I have a majority of them. I can't say I had all of them. I think I didn't get the All Star one. The Starlight just was at the regular bourbon.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite? Like I know they're all your babies. They're all your, but like, what was your favorite one to pick out of all of them?
Um,
Not to taste, you to pick, Brandon, or to that you thought.
to pick. Yeah, to pick.
To pick, honestly, it's the one coming up. It's the Makers.
Oh,
Like the entire experience from like start to finish was just unbelievable. I mean, I've been able to go to Buffalo Trace and do Weather Foolproof Blanton's and a Buffalo Trace pick, and usually that's like cream of the crop as far as experiences go. But I mean, Makers I think just blew it out of the water with everything from start to finish.
I've seen and heard of the Makers process, and I've heard it's really cool. So
Yeah.
maybe one day when we make it big like Brandon Michael, we'll have to go to Makers and do our own pick of some sort. So
Absolutely, you should.
I think the finish is very good. You mentioned it's not like your normal finishes, and it's not. I think you're right that it does tail off a little quicker, but it's got a nice burn towards the back end. I got that cherry and a marshmallow, like a s'mores feel to it, and that's what I got on the nose. I think normally I've been pulling cherry off the nose quite a bit. I don't on this one. I get caramel and the oak with that toast and the s'mores, but I really pull the cherry out on the palate. So we have our own rating scale. If you haven't listened, it's the Barrels and Barrels of Bourbon and Baseball podcast rating scale. We go from the top of the top at Hall of Fame, then we go to All-Star. Third is everyday player. Fourth is bench. And as you know, a bench player is not necessarily a bad player. It's just someone who just comes in and mixes things up. And then there's the DFA. Of course, you never want the DFA. So, Michael, now that you've sampled, sniffed, and tried the Penelope, a toast to the MLB 2022 season, I'm putting you under the gun first in front of the guy whose name's on it. Where do you rank this?
so I think like you said, the finish is not as strong as typical, but the sweetness part of it, the toast up front, I think pushes this guy up a level, and so I think this guy here is an everyday player.
Yeah, I wish this wasn't just a single barrel pick because I would buy multiple of these. But yes, I'm going with an everyday player as well. I think it's very well rounded, even though you said it didn't turn out the way you expected it to. I think this is another knock out of the park home run with your picks. I don't think it's my favorite of your picks, but I think I'm going to say it's up there in the top 3 that I have of the 5. So I'm going everyday player. Brandon, where would you rank it?
I would go with the everyday player. It's very in the sense it's very crushable.
Yes.
Because of that lingering finish and heat isn't there at the end. I think it can kind of sneak up and surprise you. So yeah, I definitely think it's very crushable. And like I said, I mean it's not the normal of what I do or what we usually pick, but in the end it turned out pretty good. And again, got a lot of good feedback. So that's very surprising to see kind of this experiment come out the way it did. So, but yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, very good. You just defined it, crushable. I've mentioned that on a couple of other pours in the last couple of weeks, but this is one that I could continuously see going to and being like, damn it, where'd the rest of it go? So both Michael, myself, and even Brandon giving it an everyday player. So if are there any available, or did you sell out?
They sold out in 3 days.
That's awesome.
It was a lower yield. I think it was 120 bottle yield, so a little bit less than the typical. You see like 160 to 180 type of deal. But yeah, I mean it was success, and looking forward to keeping them coming. And 2023s. It seems like we've got some good things coming for the group and everyone. So I'm excited to see what's to come.
Yeah, definitely.
So bourbon, we talked a little bit about that. Let's shift gears now. You're a Cardinals fan. Who was your favorite player growing up?
It was just always Albert Pujols.
How could not? He crushed
Just
us
the
every
way,
time.
right? Especially his last game against you guys. But
Yep.
I was there for it. But no, I think it was just the way he played the game and he went about it, what he did on the field, but more importantly, what he did off the field, how he gave back to the community, and just the way that he, kind of did himself throughout his time. I mean, it was just always it was never too high, it was never too low. It just kind of stayed always even, and it was always a team player, and it was actually pretty awesome that when I got to play in the Dominican last winter, that I actually got to face him, three times. So that was pretty nerve-wracking to go kind of face your all-time baseball idol. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of great players and all of baseball history. I mean, there's also Adam Wainwright and Matt
Mm-hmm.
Carpenter, or not Matt Carpenter, but Chris Carpenter, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Cardinal greats.
So you faced him in the DR. Did you strike his ass out?
I came close, but I can say he went 0 for 3 off me with 3 groundouts, but I did not get to strike him out. I had my chance and I blew it. So,
But hey, his batting average is 0.
yeah. So, yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, that's all I can ask for. So,
Well, that's awesome. So you mentioned Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright. What do you think of the Cardinals team this year? Like, what do you expect from them?
Second place.
I think, yeah, I think, I mean, I think they'll kind of be middle of the road this year. You've got Wainwright, who's in his later years, probably his last year, and I don't feel like they have that star player anymore. I mean, you got Arenado and Goldschmidt, um, but I still feel like they're a fairly young team, and pitching side is gonna make it or break it for them this year. I think offense will kind of always be there, but I think that pitching, if Jack Flaherty and kind of
He can
Dakota
stay
Hudson
healthy.
can kind of hold their own this year, yeah, then they'll do pretty well. I think they'll either be wild card or right there on top at the central standings, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because this year the teams don't play interdivision teams as often as they did in the past, so they don't beat up on each other as
Hmm.
much. So I'm wondering, with
Hmm.
the NL East having 200-win teams last year, the Mets and the Braves both won
Mm-hmm.
100. Could
And
you
the team that
see
didn't win 100 games made the World Series.
could you see 3 teams win 100 games in the NL East this year since they don't beat each other up as much?
It could be possible.
Yeah.
You never know.
So, Cardinals fan, you played for several minor league teams. What is it like? So, I was looking at your statistics and like your game lines. What's it like getting the call to the next level? Like, hey, Brandon, you're getting called up to Double A. What's the process like? What goes through your mind when they're saying, hey, you're going to Durham to go play with the Bulls?
Um, I think it's just everything that you always like kind of dream of. Like you're getting the to the next level to get to the ultimate goal
Mm-hmm.
of reaching the big leagues. So you feel, kind of empowered, accomplished a little bit, but there's still a lot of work to do. And I was able in the second season to go from high A of having a mediocre year in my mind. You know, going up down from relieving to spot starting to starting, all that type of stuff, and then getting to go play with the Bulls and um, go play in the playoffs for the AAA national championship and everything with them, and then end up taking a ring home.
Oh, that's
Um, you know,
sweet.
so got to play with some really really awesome guys, and for the next what was it 2 3 years, I mean it's kind of been high A and then double A, triple A, double A, triple A type of deal. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
up down, and that's kind of really where the men are made. There's a lot of politics in baseball. Of how much you signed for, of
Yep.
this and this. Do you throw 100? Et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, I think it just really depends on the person of what you're willing to do to get to the next level. But there's a lot of memories to be made through it all, and I had a great time doing it.
So was that 2017 you guys won?
Uh, so 2017 is when I was with the Bulls, or at the end of the year I went with the Bulls, ended up winning the AAA national championship. And then in 19, when I was with the Giants, I ended up getting a call to go at the end of the year to that AAA national championship, and we ended up winning that as well. So I got both AAA divisions. I'll see if I can get the ring real quick.
That's
but
sweet.
Here's the River Cats.
That's so cool.
And then Bulls went all out, but
Bulls went all out.
yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's awesome.
But really cool experiences and everything, and always have those memories.
For sure.
Who's on the 17 team? Was Wanderers still on the? Was he with the team or no? No, that
No,
would have been too early.
He was probably like 16 at the time, but no, like Brandon Lau.
Okay.
Brandon Lau, Brent Honeywell, Diego Castillo. Endless amounts of names. Jake Fraley was there with me. Not Jake McCarthy. Joe McCarthy. There's probably like 9 big leaguers at least on that team that at least have gotten up there. So, but
Michael, you asked earlier, what was the question?
I asked what was all your arsenal as a pitcher?
So I was a big sinker baller. That's how I made my money, getting ground balls and really quick outs. I kind of sat in my prime, 91 to 93. I'd get up to 95, 96 occasionally, in relief roles, whatnot. But, running the two seam in, breaking bats, getting ground balls, had a little slider, curveball, and then a change up. So, got in my later years, ended up finding a four seam and kind of mixed levels to get people off my two seam, and had a lot of success with that. But yeah, primarily sinker ball guy. Always emulated kind of like Greg Maddux and stuff like that. So
that two seamer to dart back on the corner.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you had a bevy of things. You went from relief to starter as well. What was your favorite pitch to throw?
Honestly, I would. There was times where I could go, 8 out of 10 times, just throwing sinkers, and I would love to watch people try to, hit it and sit on it, but that late movement, just kind of jams them and ground ball to double play or break their bat and come firewood.
Albert Pujols.
So. Oh yeah, but yeah, I was never scared to throw it. I think there was a game where I threw like 86 out of 102 pitches were sinkers.
Wow.
So, sometimes when things were good, you just run with it until they're not. So,
craziest minor league story. I know I've seen him on Instagram. I've seen him on Twitter. What was the biggest "this is minor league baseball" that you had?
Oh man, I don't even know where to start with that. There's ones I can't tell. There's ones that are sad, and then there's ones that are just, you can't make up. As far as the can't make up one that I can see on air, it's just like these things are so minor league that you really can't make it up. And it's just, we're on the way home from, I think, like a 8-hour bus ride, and we're like 3 hours in, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, like start to smell smoke, and then we're like, okay, now the bus is getting really hot. And then we start to see it come out of the side of the bus, and our wheel well of the front bus tire was caught on fire, like a grease fire, and ended up kind of parked on the side of the road for about 3 hours in the middle of nowhere. And then you kind of have to have a tow truck, and then you gotta wait for another like bus to come and get you, and then pack that up and get everything. So that 8-hour bus ride turned into like a 16-hour bus ride.
And by the way, you got to play a game the next day, and it's a 1:20 start, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've done many of those where we'll get done at midnight, and then you drive all the way from Montgomery, Alabama to Gatlinburg, where the Smokies are at, to there, and I think we got in at like 9 a.m. and 1 o'clock start. So here, get a few hours of sleep, and then get going.
Oh, and by the way, we're judging your performance today, and it's going to make or break whether or not you get called the next time.
Yeah, going back down to high A.
You mentioned Montgomery. I know you played with the Biscuits. Where was your favorite place to play?
I think it had to be Durham. Bull Durham, the movie, the
My
city.
favorite baseball movie.
Yeah, the city was awesome. There's so many things around it to do. My wife and our dog at the time, they came up and visited and, loved to do like hiking things and whatnot. So ended up just having a great time. But like the baseball experience, I mean, they packed that stadium and, just kind of the history around it all. I think that probably had to be the best experience.
How do you feel about different crowd sizes? Like when you first pitched in front of a crowd, a huge crowd, how was that feeling?
Um, I feel like I was always kind of used to it a little bit. The funny thing is, you go from college and you go from like, 1,000, 2,000 fans, and then you go into minor league ball and you play in front of like 7 fans.
That's true.
I'm not kidding you.
A Monday day game.
Yeah, so like the Florida State League down there, I think we would average maybe like 120 fans per game, but then like maybe on a Thirsty Thursday or dollar beer nights, that's when you get all the people out there. Or we got to play when Tim Tebow was playing.
Oh,
He
that's
was
right.
in he was in high A at the time, and so any stadium that he went to, he would like bring like 5,000 people. I'm not kidding you. Like it was always something. But I feel like there was always kind of that easiness of playing in front of fans. I mean, now there was times like where you get in front of 10,000 fans, like especially in Dominican. I mean, they go crazy
Nuts.
down there for baseball. But I kind of just try to focus that out. Just worry about the game and worry, kind of, eyesight on the catcher and everything like that. So
Tebow with Port St. Lucie at that point in time.
yeah,
Did you pitch against him?
he actually fisted a ball as we were playing the shift and knobbed it down third base line as we are playing the shift, and got a hit off me. So I guess
Ugh.
I can say that, but yeah.
Well, speaking of the shift, that's a segue. Our last podcast, which is dropped already, it is about the shift itself and all the different rules in the majors. What was your thought as a pitcher with the shift? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Were you just like, it is what it is?
I think there's a love-hate relationship with it, especially for me being a ground ball pitcher. There's so many times that the ball's put in play that it's like, okay, like I'm trying to get into someone's hands, but like you're playing all the way down, the shift on the third base side, but yet here I am, I just broke his bat and he hit it 30 miles an hour down the, first base line and no one's there. So it's like there went a double play or something like that. So, but there was times like where it definitely saved me, and there's times where it definitely hurt me. I I'll kind of watch this year and see how it goes for all the guys, and we'll see from there. I mean, people's reactions and attitudes towards it, if it's really going to help or not.
Well, as like off the cuff, do you think it is going to lead to more hits, or what? What do you think?
I don't really think so, to be honest. I think it's more of like a head game than anything. For all these hitters, you always hear like Joey Gallo, complain about it or something like that, and it's just like, hey, dude, like we're putting all these guys over to this side of the field. Why don't you try to hit it to the other side of the field? And he doesn't make the adjustment, or other people don't make the adjustment, and so I don't know. I mean, we'll see. It'll be a good experiment to see for the game, but they keep trying to speed up the game in different ways, um, and some of it's good, some of it's bad. I feel like, but just kind of is what it is with this day and age. So,
Did you pitch with the pitch clock in the minors?
oh yeah,
What did you think of it?
it really didn't phase you that much. I mean, I think this last year when they tried to like force the if you try to pick off once, you can do that. But like if you do it 2 times without getting the guy out, the third time you have to pick, like third time you have to get him out, and if not, then he gets to go to second base. Like it's like a balk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just weird things like that that I feel like they think that's going to speed up the game, but really it doesn't. I think last year's games were like 3 hours and 7 minutes, so I really don't see like that much of a difference from the time before.
Like
But
as a pitcher, did you just finally get used to it? Like
yeah,
15
yeah,
seconds?
yeah. You practice in spring training with it all, and you get used to all those new rules. So um, there is times like where you get kind of sped up a little bit with, um, trying to get the catcher signs and all that type of stuff, and then it's like, okay, I haven't come set, and it's only 5 seconds. I have to get this off by now. Like, you know, um, but it takes some getting used to.
Did that lead to more mistake pitches or rush
I think,
pitches? You think so?
I think, yeah, yeah, definitely for sure. I think for a lot of people it did.
So it probably leads to a little more action in the field would be my guess, right? Because the
Yeah,
pitcher's rushing their pitch, they may not be as crisp to get it to home plate.
yeah. I think there's going to be, definitely some pitchers that it does startle a little bit more than others, especially with probably the reasons why that rule has started to be implemented. But I feel for the majority of them, I mean, it's probably going to be fine.
You mean Kenley Jansen's not going to be able to take 2 minutes in between each pitch?
Nope, not anymore.
So you mentioned spring training. They teach you that. What is it like coming into spring training with the new rules? Like, do they bring in umpires? Do they bring in league officials? Like, how do you guys get that? Or is it
I
just
mean,
coaching?
no,
PowerPoint.
it's kind of coaching, letting you know, yeah, a little bit, but it's more so like coaching, like just, hey, like make sure, going into the game finally, once you get in, like, you only have this, you're able to hold for 12 seconds and not, your normal 20 type of thing. But the umpires in spring training, they're kind of lenient. They'll be like, hey, like, I could have called that, but I'm not. We're just learning right now. And then, like, once you get closer to the season, then it's like, hey, we're going to implement it so that way you see how it's going to affect you now. But I mean, it's pretty well like eased into.
You mentioned spring training, the coaches, but what is it like just as a pitcher coming into spring training? What are you focusing on? We're 2-3 weeks away. Some people are reporting now. Like, what is your mindset at this point in the game as you approach spring training?
Really just kind of start to ease on into it. You want to be coming in prepared as possible because you never know what's going to happen above. I mean, I've seen so many spring training injuries to where people get chances that probably wouldn't have got chances before, and they end up kind of taking off with it, and now they got a 10-year big league career. So you always got to be prepared and ready for every opportunity. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, you're trying to just go in there in shape, healthy, um, ease on into it. It's kind of like, fastballs for, the most part. And then the second week, then you're going to, start implementing, change-ups, curveballs type of thing, and so on and so forth. And
What's
then,
your off season like
probably the
then?
third week really take off with it. Oh, man. It really depends on the minor leaguer that you ask. For my standpoint, off seasons were always tough. I didn't sign for that much money. I signed for a decent amount, but not something that I can just live off of for the rest of my life, like some of
Hmm.
these first and second and third rounders. But um, so you'll end in September. You get about, let's say, a month and a half, 2 months off maybe, and then you gotta find a job if you don't have the money to sit on. If you're not honestly, if you're not living with mom and dad,
Hmm.
or you don't come from money or something like that, I mean, you're working your butt off as soon as you get back from the season, and it's different, and especially like me, like being engaged, have a dog, trying to have a family, all the type of things. It definitely, I wouldn't say it gets in the way, but it becomes tough to juggle. And then so now you're trying to do a part-time job or a full-time job, and then you got to find time once, let's say November starts. to start pick back up training. And most of these guys, I mean, unless you have a really like detailed regimen of working out and things like that, and the availability to
Mm-hmm.
yourself, I mean, you got to go find a gym or a strength coach or something like that, some workout
Someone to play
facility,
catch with.
and you know, yeah, that. I mean, some of these workout facilities, I mean, you're spending $1,000 a month, just trying to stay train, stay in shape, all that type of stuff. Then, while you're training, you also have to, like you said, find a catch partner, and then, make time to find a catcher now to go, do your bullpens, as well as trying to do your side job to be able to afford the training, and your rent or whatever, and then juggle your personal life as well. So it's really what the player makes of it. It's not all stars and everything like that, that kind of, I feel like a lot of people see, but more the people that understand baseball, they understand it a little bit, but there's definitely more of a background to it all that I feel like most don't see, the struggle coming up. I've
Yeah.
seen, I've dealt with some of the struggle. I've heard worse stories than mine. I've dealt with the struggle of, you go into pro ball and you're making $1,200 a month and you're living with a host family. You don't have a car. You're food, things like that, whatever. But then like now they've started to pay for housing. They've started to prepare better meals for the guys. Like, I mean, like when I was first starting, it was peanut butter and jellies,
Yeah.
at the games and stuff.
Oh,
And
by the way, stay in shape.
yeah, you got to pay clubby fees,
Mm-hmm.
home and away clubby fees. You got to and then tip them as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, hey, I get paid $25 a day for per diem on a 4 game road trip. So I get $100, and now you got to go pay your clubby $8 a game, um, for that, and then tip them on the side, but as well as eat outside of the field because maybe I don't want to eat peanut butter and jelly that day,
Yeah.
Right.
you know.
Maybe I'm trying to bulk up a
But
little bit.
I mean, I'm not complaining by any means. I mean, the struggle kind of makes part of it a little bit of making you want it more. So it really just depends on the person.
Yeah. Now, like when you roomed with someone, how did that all work? Because I've heard horror stories where there's people sleeping in the bathroom on a bed,
Oh yeah.
on a cot. Like,
Um,
I'm assuming you saw that.
oh yeah, I was part of that. There was, for the road stuff. I mean, you get put in a hotel, you got to share a hotel room with another guy. So, say your roomie that you wanted to get, booked with, he gets called up, and now you get, a Dominican that speaks no English and just, has no manners whatsoever. And
Mm-hmm.
it depends. It's about all people. You get put in that situation, or with the housing situations, whenever, um, let's say in spring training, you don't get paid. You get paid if you want to live out, you get paid like $400 a week. So let's say in Port Charlotte, Florida, it's peak season during the spring training time. Housing for like, just a normal like 3-2 type of house, about $3,200
A month.
a month. So I'm getting paid $400 a week, so $1,600 a month to live out. And so you got to go into these houses like, hey, it's 3 bedrooms, but let's put 6 guys in here,
Yeah.
and like I'll take the closet, you take the kitchen, so and so. And I've lived in kitchens, I've seen guys live in closets. I mean, the stories are true, and but it's always a good conversation piece.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Like I've heard horror stories. I listen to the Compound podcast. So I've listened to Zach Short and Dakota Meckes talk about some of their experiences. And I know, was it last year? Or was it the year before they implemented the like better pay and like starting to take
Yeah,
care of housing wise? But it's still, it
yeah,
only goes a certain amount because you're still making only a couple $100 a week. Obviously, the higher you get up, you get a little bit more money, but it's not.
yeah,
That's what a lot of people don't understand about baseball. They think these Major League Baseball players, which are making even the minimum now is what, 700,000, which I'm not complaining about, but most
Yeah.
people just think, oh yeah, they're making millions and millions of dollars.
Unless you're a 40-man player or you've been in the big leagues before or you're a free agent that has had like big league or like high prospect status, you will only right now currently you're probably only making 4 grand a month, and that's before taxes.
Right.
So I mean, it's still that's a little bit livable type of thing, but like you only get paid for those 6 months
Right.
that baseball season is going. So, I mean, there's definitely guys where I played with that are making $25,000 a month, but
Signing
for
bonus or
for everyone else, I mean, you're struggling to make it. So it's definitely a big mental aspect of the game that a lot of people don't see.
but every once in a while you'll have someone come down for a rehab assignment or
I was
something like
just
that. Who
thinking
is
the
like the
same thing.
most okay, like who is the most famous person or famous player that you played with on a rehab assignment or came up with? Because they normally take care of the bill most of the time, right?
Yeah, they'll provide like a good dinner for you. Yeah, they'll take like the $3,200 or something like that. It's usually for like a team dinner and pay all that or our clubby fees or something like that, and it's always really appreciated. I would say like Nathan Evaldi
Okay.
was always a good one.
In Tampa?
Brad, yeah, Brad Miller was always a homie. He always treated us very well. I think we saw him way too often down there, but it was always nice to have him.
Yeah.
It was always nice to have him. But
Hey, break a leg, man.
I mean, we ran through a lot. Yeah, we ran through a lot of people, especially in the Florida State League. That's where all the guys rehabbing, like Wilson Ramos, Nathan Valdi, Brad Miller. I mean, Chris Archer. You name it. There's always some guys there. But no, I didn't run across anyone like too big. I mean, there was big names, but I mean, not like Hall of Famer type of vibes or anything like that yet. So.
So was Longo still there, or was he already on the way to the Giants by the time you got drafted?
He was there, I think, my first year, and then my second year, I think he was traded by then. So
So what's like camp? Like you arrived, are you all in the same locker room?
no, there's divided locker rooms. There's like a minor league side and there's a big league side. So, but for those first like 2 or 3 weeks before they start making cuts and all the big league guys aren't ready, they'll call up like you know 10 minor leaguers to the big league side to kind of spot fill some of the games and kind of
Mm-hmm.
be backups. So I was always a part of that a lot. Got to experience a lot of like big league spring training games. So that was always fun.
What's your go-to glove brand? Are you a Wilson guy, Mizuno,
Um,
or didn't matter?
I mean, college I was Rawlings, but as far as pro ball goes, I actually had a contract with 44 Pro Gloves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Looks like a snakehead,
they're
right?
yeah, a little bit. They're a really big glove brand now. When I first started with them in 16, they were just starting up and they were just trying to get into the league. And then I had contract with them all 6 years that I played, and the leather got better and better each year, and now they're pretty much everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my go-to glove. It is fully customizable. It is relatively cheap for anyone. I mean, most or not Under Armours, but Rawlings or Mizuno's are like $400 or $500 to customize. But these are about 225, 185, something like that, and they're really good with leather. So you can pretty much see them everywhere in the game now.
So when you say you're
But
under contract, does that mean you get just a deal on the mitt, or like they give it to you?
so they'll provide me like say 4 gloves a year under contract with them, and if I make an all-star team, they'll give me X amount of dollars. If I make the big leagues with them, X amount of dollars type of thing. So kind of like a
Sick.
marketing brand deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
So you've pitched in a lot of ballparks against a lot of players. Who was the toughest out, or like who was the guy that just got you every time?
um, toughest out. I can say this with ease, is Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Hmm.
Dude just, you could get him 0 and 2, and then this dude would just sit on pitches and, spit on pitches, and next thing you know, it'd be 3-2, and then you walk him. Or I think he was probably like, I don't know, 2 for 2 off me with like 4 walks and like, two doubles type of thing. It was always something like where you get it, you think you're ahead, and then all of a sudden, he's on first base or something like that, and you're like, how'd you get there? But he always had my number. But yeah, so
So what made you? So I was gonna say, what made you a pitcher? Were you always a pitcher growing up, or did you did you know did you have a cannon growing up, and that your little league coaches put you a pitcher? Or, how'd you become a pitcher?
yeah, I mean, my dad always pushed pitching on me. I always kind of had a stronger arm than a lot of other people. I stopped playing like little league, or in our area it was called Dixie. Um, I stopped playing that at about 10 years old, and then started to play travel ball. Um, and Florida's a big, baseball state anyways, and so it started to take off from there, and then you start getting invited to go play with other travel teams, all the best travel teams in the state and things like that. And I ended up playing in high school with FTV Mizuno, which it's pretty crazy. Like our FTV Mizuno team was like Addison Russell, Francisco Lindor, Daniel Vogelbach, uh, let's see,
Was Javier?
Javier Baez, Jose Fernandez, Jesse Winker. I mean, like first rounder after first rounder.
You
Like
were on that team.
that was my team, and it was the best team like in the state and the country and everything like that. And like you'd occasionally get kids that would fly from other states and stuff like that and play with you and
Hmm.
whatnot. But it was just always like cream of the crop, and just it was a great time to play baseball. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, stepping aside from that, as a Cubs fan, I want to know, was Javi as swagalicious back then as he is
Oh
now?
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Monster home runs and just pimp
Hmm.
everything.
Yep, no doubt.
That's sick. Um, I've got another question. It stems off the photos you sent me earlier. There was a awesome uniform, and we're going to talk about a pick that you're coming up with here later that's going to be part of. But what was your favorite uniform? Because that's the cool thing about minor league baseball. It's not just the same uniform every day. Was there
Hmm.
one that was your all-time favorite?
Huh. Well, the Whataburger one definitely had to be one of the top ones. I mean, there was all types of jerseys that you'd run through. I mean, there's almost too many to even remember. The one that sticks out to me the most is just the Whataburger one. But I mean, like, um, there was some cool ones with the biscuits. There was, let's see, biscuits. I was a flying squirrel at one point with Richmond, so they had some good ones. Um, But yeah, I think the Whataburger one stuck out to me the most, just because everyone like just recognized it, and always had a ball with seeing that every Wednesday.
Was that Corpus Christi?
Yeah, yep. So Whataburger Wednesdays, put that Whataburger jersey on, and go have some fun.
And last thing I have, it was kind of a hot topic about, I guess, about a year and a half ago. How prevalent was spider tack or just sticky stuff in the
Um,
minors?
it's always a touchy subject.
Yeah.
Uh, it's was definitely there, and I think it still is there to a certain extent now. And I think as a pitcher, and I really don't mean this in a biased way, as a pitcher, like we're trying to grip the ball because I don't like most people don't understand like when you go up levels, the ball changes. So you
Hmm.
go from a laces that are higher to level by level, they grow smaller and smaller. And so when you get to the big leagues, that ball is literally like slippery. Like you can almost like you can't hold on to it. And so when they rub that mud on it and everything, I mean, you can get a little bit of a grip, but there's just I mean, you're throwing 100 miles an hour, trying to like, flick that, slider or curveball off of your fingers and stuff, and it just isn't there. So you don't know where it's going a lot of times. So like my thing is like, if batters are allowed to use pine tar, I'm totally fine with batting gloves, but pine tar or like, there's sticky spray or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
why can't I use, pine or not pine tar, but spider tack, all that type of stuff to just get a little bit better grip on the ball. Now there's extensive amount of like people who put too much on it and things can happen that way. But I was never a person who used spider tack because of the sinker. It would
Mm-hmm.
affect my sinker differently than like four seam guys like Garrett Cole or people like that. Um, or like Trevor Bauer, or things like that. But like, I mean, spin rate. I wasn't a spin rate person, so like spin rate guys, like I saw a kid go from like 2600 RPMs to 3100 RPMs
Yeah.
just by using the spider tack, and like his career changed immensely because of that. And then after it got taken away, now he's out of the big leagues and can't get a grip on a ball.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you get used to it too. It becomes a crutch almost to a certain point, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can use,
A rosin.
rosin and everything like that, sunscreen. I mean, there's things on Amazon called what is it, Gorilla Snot. It's literally like it's like guitar pick stuff. I mean, when I went with the Astros, they basically said like, "Hey, we have our stuff," and then they got cracked down on,
Yeah.
and then it all went away. But I'm sure to some extent, like it's there somewhere. Like if you watch people's belts, or if you watch, guys go like this on their wrist before they go. I mean,
Yeah.
there's something there. So
Oh, what was the guy in the World Series this past year wiping his hand? He's coming off the mound. Is he doing?
Framber.
Yeah, Framber. Is he doing that just
hmm
to mess with the other team,
oh
or
yeah, oh yeah. No, no, he's definitely got something. I mean, it's all really up to the umpire and the other team and stuff. But I mean, if you're going like this, like after every pitch or something like that, if you're going like this to your glove, or to your lace or something like that, or if you're going like to your belt or something, I mean, there's something there.
adjusting your cup? The
So
umpire's not going to want to touch that.
What was it, last 2 years ago? Lance Lynn started stripping on the field and got kicked out of the game or something like that. Or Scherzer, and I dropped his pants.
oh yeah, yeah,
So you mentioned the Astros. I know the Rays, the Giants, the Twins. Are those the four organizations you've been with?
yeah. Rays, Giants, Astros, Twins.
Which was your favorite of the four?
Um, I think I had the most fun with the Astros back in 20. I think that was like kind of the season that I had the most fun with. I was just really, laid back. We were coming off of COVID, and I didn't know what was going to happen that year, because I mean, I went into that um, spring training previous with with the Giants, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, everyone's going to be sent home. We don't know when the season's going to start
Mm.
back up. And then so you go home and it's like, hey, season's canceled. So now what do I do?
Oof.
Then you go do a regular job for 5 months, and then it's like, okay, like now I'm 25 or 26. Like, is baseball going to be coming back or not for me? I'm a free agent now, and you just try to send out video and things like that, and be hopeful of someone to sign you. And then all of a sudden, right when the season was about to start, Astros called and said they want to sign me, and I just had a lot of fun. I mean, the clubhouse atmosphere was great, the coaching was great, so that's probably the most fun that I had so far.
That's sweet.
So, in your opinion, with the different, you were just talking spider tack and such, does Barry Bonds belong in the Hall of Fame?
In my opinion, I think yes, but there's a reason behind that, because I think there's a part of the game back then. I think like I think he or the steroid era guys deserve to be in, because it was in with an asterisk
Right.
behind their name, because that was just a part of the game. I mean, like, everyone can say like, oh yeah, like I didn't use it. I mean, maybe you just, didn't get caught back then.
Right.
I think like it was kind of one of those things like if you weren't doing it, you probably, just either didn't care that much enough or I don't know. I mean, I just really feel like it was part of the game, and you can't really tear people down too much for it because there's so many people doing it and so many people you don't know who are doing it.
Right.
Uh, so,
Yeah.
but I don't have any like, um, thing behind it. I think like he and everyone else in that era that was great kind of deserves to be in, but just put an asterisk next to their name and be like, hey, steroid era player. I mean, you're
Yeah.
never going to see anything like that ever again.
Right.
So you mentioned you were with the Astros. It was your most fun team. Like, is there a coach in the minors that like you give more credit to, or like you liked coaching you the best?
Yeah, it was definitely my high A pitching coach, Doc Watson. Older guy, been around the game for forever. Just was a teacher of the game and, always knew how to have fun on the side. And, but I think that's really where I learned a lot about professional baseball and how to act and be and how to play and be a player and everything. It was kind of because of him. So,
Yeah. I mean, does the coach make it for you that much? Like, can you look back and say, "Hey, Doc, it really helped me be successful." That, if I would have had Doc, another a Doc at Double A, I would have a Doc at Triple A. If I have a Doc here, that I just feel like my games were better.
yeah, I definitely think they play a big part into it. Going from high A, I had him, and then going into Double A Montgomery, I had a different guy, and you just don't click
Right.
on all levels. But I think in the end of the day, in any part of life, you can learn something from someone,
Hmm.
no matter if it's good or bad. So like you can take something away from each of these 10 pitching coaches that I dealt with and make something good out of it or learn something from it or say like, hey, this isn't going to be me. This is how I'm going to act or how I'm going to be type of thing in the game or in life, whatever. But yeah, if there was 10, Doc Watsons, I probably feel pretty comfortable, about my pitching career for sure.
All right. Not baseball, but what's your go-to daily pour? Do you like sweeter? Do you like
Um,
what's your favorite?
um, Daily pour. I think I've always like ventured towards like a Buffalo Trace store pick. It's always just kind of been like a daily pour. I tried to rally up as much as those as I can. But I think like a close second, if not like a 1A, 1B, is like a OWA. I don't
Mm.
think you can really beat like an OWA, especially like a store pick, but obviously those are harder to come by. But I mean, just a good old, 107 proof weeder
Weeder. Yep.
is always
I
really
enjoy a
good.
good
But
weeder.
yeah, so. hmm
So you've said you've got 7 different picks. There's more on the road and down the road. What's next for you guys? What's next for you? What are you looking forward to?
So the one I'm really looking forward to is the next one, the Maker's Mark. Like I said, the experience was hands down like the best experience I've had so far in bourbon. The pick experience, the people that we were with, what they did outside of the pick and how they treated us was just top notch. But also like with the Maker's pick, you kind of have to do some research going into it because like they have those different stave profile options, and so
Hmm.
you in the pick you actually only get three like options to choose from, or like three like choices of those 10 profiles,
Yeah.
and so you kind of have to have an idea of what you're getting into. Now, like Richard, who was a part of the pick, he had, gotten all kinds of samples of makers picks and like sent me samples of like for me to try of like all the different profiles and whatnot. And so that's how we kind of like gotten you know, found what path we were gonna go. So I think like we went in there saying like not 4-1-2-3 because that's what we went with, but there was like 3-1-2-4 something like that is what we went in there with, and it just like there was a nose and a palate, but there wasn't a finish. And then the store guy, Mitt, he was there, and he's like, "Well, how about like we do 2-2-2-4?" And so we went with that, and I'm like, "No, like there's something there, but something's like too much where it doesn't mesh well." And then I was like, "Well, after thinking about it, like let's do 3-1."
So at that point, I
Like
think
or
let's
4-1.
try, after a couple of
Yeah,
polls,
pretty much. But it was yeah, for real. I think it was 4-1-2-3 was the last one, and then like just everything hit on all cylinders. Like and like the barrel picking guy was like, yeah, like that's a pretty odd choice. I don't think I've seen that choice like around too many of times. But like this is this is pretty great. Like what you guys picked. Um, so we went with that, and like that's gonna be called Maker's McGuire for
That's
like a Mark
awesome.
McGuire, but
It's so cool.
the sticker around that is going to be his Got Milk uh,
Was Sammy on that
poster.
too?
No, it's just him. I'm gonna release it here soon, but it's like just him, and it's like Got Milk, and he's got like the milk mustache and
Mm-hmm.
like the bat or something, and so we're gonna put like Got Makers with a red mustache
That's so
with
cool.
a bottle in his hand, and then it kind of has like talking about like the milk stuff, like it's got like calcium, this, and this, and we're gonna talk about the notes at the bottom. So that'll be a fun one. But I'm really stoked for that Maker's pick. And then I've been waiting on a Starlight Honey like forever. Since the last time we picked, Andrew was like, "Yeah, now you guys qualify for a honey." So we're going February 10th to pick a honey, but I'm hoping that the honey is there because he said like it's limited, and that's the only time I could go is February 10th.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that there's still some honey barrels there. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of be let down. I've been waiting for so long and now it's already gone. But I think there's only like 17 days in between like when I asked for it and to when I'm going. And then, so it's only 34 picks like between that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think everyone's qualified for honey. But
Fingers
so that's,
crossed, right?
yeah, I know.
you can put us all here. Come on.
Starlight, I think that Starlight will be the only sticker that I think will probably be personal. And just because I want to do that Whataburger honey butter chicken biscuit.
Yeah.
Let me get my dogs down here real
You're
quick.
good.
But that one's gonna be special to me because played for the honey butter chicken biscuits. I got a jersey and picture and all that type of thing into it. So there's a store in Georgia that's sometimes changed the front logo of Starlight, and Starlight's okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to change the front logo to match that honey butter chicken biscuit, and then kind of have like my picture on the back of it. Um, and then there's also an ASW Fiddler Amberana pick going to be coming up. So I know like Starlight's pretty big for the cigar batches, but ASW is doing some really good things in Atlanta, and I know Witt very well there, and so I'm really looking forward to that. He's sending up samples. They kind of rushed the pick a little bit, which is okay, but they're sending samples rather than us going down there, and we'll be doing like a live barrel pick on the group
Oh,
page
cool.
with some of the guys involved. And then, yeah,
So is your group open to the listeners if they want to join in?
yeah, no, absolutely. Anyone's welcome. You know,
You just
so
join the group and Brandon becomes your
anyone who loves
personal
bourbon
bourbon
and
shopper. You don't have to go into the
anyone
store.
who loves, yeah, anyone who loves bourbon and baseball and everything is more than welcome to be a part of it. So,
Awesome, man. Well, I can hear the baby in the background,
yeah,
so I'm sure
it's
you're gonna have
about
to go here in
time.
a second. Anything else you want to tell our listeners, our viewers here on YouTube? What about yourself or just the bourbon world and community or baseball itself?
No, appreciate you guys, what you guys are doing, and having me on, and appreciate being a part of it, and talking with you both tonight.
Yeah, we're going to have you on again, talk about more future picks, talk about what else. You've got merchandise, too. I know I just saw in the group that you just dropped like a quarter zip. So, listeners, if you want that, head on over there. Michael's supporting one of the shirts. Brandon's got the other shirt. Brandon and I have the hat. I've got his autograph behind me. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you been able to see that through the entire show? Your autograph's been sitting over my left shoulder. It's in the bourbon bar the entire time, all the time. But you can find where can we find you on Instagram? You got two of them. Which one do you prefer?
Either or, honestly. I mean, I'm primarily on Major League Bourbon, but I mean the group page is growing as well. So Major League Bourbon Clubhouse on Instagram, and then at Facebook. Go to Major League Bourbon Clubhouse, join, and look forward to be a part of it. So
yeah, well, we are honored to have you on. So excited that you came on, and I had a blast tonight. I know Michael, you probably did as well, and
I probably did.
We're gonna have to have you on again. I'm gonna speak for Michael, but yeah, we are so happy that you joined us today. Thank you so much for your time, and again, go follow Brandon at Major League Bourbon Clubhouse on Instagram, at Major League Bourbon on Instagram as well, and then the Facebook page. You can follow us on Instagram at Barrels and Barrels Pod. Michael, where's your Instagram handle?
I'm BNB_Burns.
And I am whiskey_weather. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube at Barrels and Barrels Pod. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube here. Twitter, Barrels and Barrels. And our email is barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. Don't forget to ask about merchandise and all of that stuff. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and iHeartRadio Podcasts. Please rate us, review us. If you shout us out on that, we will give you a shout out here. And also, we've already been worldwide, but we added another country, didn't we, Michael? You messaged me. Where did we add?
Oh, I don't have it up at the moment.
I thought it was Canada, eh?
Was Canada the last one that we
got a
added
listener
recently?
in Canada.
hey,
Maybe a Toronto or an old Montreal Expo.
there we go.
Yeah, Vlad Guerrero Jr. Maybe. Yeah, I highly doubt that. He just talked about him earlier today. He's going to jump in. But that's where you can find us. Thanks for listening to another episode of Barrels and Barrels, the Bourbon and Baseball podcast. A big thank you to Brandon Lawson at Major League Bourbon Clubhouse for joining us tonight. Our second official guest, our first baseball-related guest, but it merges everything together. And we had a blast tonight. So thank you, my man.
A pitcher on here. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes. Michael's a wannabe pitcher. I don't know if you know that.
No, I even had surgery a month ago to keep playing adult league.
Man.
So Michael's still living the dream at 32. He's playing adult league baseball. I blew my knee out in the same league like 3 years ago, so I've retired. But Michael's living the dream.
Keep the dream alive.
That's right. Thanks again for listening to Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. You can always find us here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as Google, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. Thanks for listening. Michael, any last words?
Go Cubs and let's go.